Thank you for tuning in to another episode of my Veterans to Success podcast. You probably know by now, my mission is to help 1 million veterans and entrepreneur business owners achieve the dreams, goals, and aspirations they deserve. That is why I created the Veterans to Success podcast, because I get to interview guys, men and women, who want to share their fascinating stories with you about their time before, during, and after their time in the military, so you can benefit and overcome your challenges. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be mesmerized, astounded, and entertained. And today, I've got with me Colin Garnett. Hello, Colin. How are you today?
I'm all right, Joe. Thank you. I'm all right. Nice to be with you.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great pleasure.
Yeah, feelings mutual. So, I know I don't give a massive, big roundup of your CV, which is amazing, by the way. What we're going to do is we're going to bring that out as we talk, because this is conversational. So what I want to get down to is, because I know your story and our listeners, you, the listener, don't know Colin's story yet, and I can tell you it is interesting, to say the least. So tell me a little bit about you before you joined the military. What made you tick?
Yeah, it's a good question. What made me tick? Growing up on a council estate in Stockport, South Manchester, tough council estate. There was always a difficulty for me to feel as if I belonged. It just didn't come naturally. In the euphoria of the games that we used to play and the celebrations of the goals that we scored, I felt a part of it. But as soon as that kind of euphoria died down, I felt like an outsider looking in.
Yeah.
I felt like I was always up against the window with my nose pressed against the window looking in.
Yeah.
And that was also the case in my family home. We lived in a 2-up, 2-down council house with my mom, dad, brother, sister, myself, and a dog.
Right. Okay.
It was only the dog that I connected with. I only felt safe with the dog.
All right. Okay. And that must have been a little bit cramped then.
I don't know, which I suppose so. Yeah, but it didn't feel like that. We didn't know any different.
Right. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
I didn't know I was poor until I met some rich kids.
Right.
You know what I mean? As I started to develop in primary school, I recognized that other kids had new shoes on all the time.
Mm.
And they came to school on a new bike after every Christmas. We used to make our bike from stolen parts of other bikes that we nicked and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was a tough, rough life that we grew up in, but I had no complaints about it. Just get on with it. And I in the home, I can remember clearly, I'd sit and look around the family home whilst we might be watching TV.
Yeah.
And I had this sense that they all look okay. They all look very comfortable. But I feel like maybe I'm actually in the way here.
Right. In what way? In the way?
Don't know. I can't describe it. Just psychologically, I didn't feel the way they looked.
Right. Okay. Got
Now,
you.
if I could describe that, if I could put that into a bottle, there's millions of kids on millions of council estates feeling exactly the same. Mm. And these kids are going to turn into parents and pass that inheritance on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So not fitting in or feeling as if I don't fit in eventually played a significant role in why I joined the forces.
I was just about to say, so what point in your childhood did you think, forces for me, I'm going in?
You know what? I didn't, Joe. Through my childhood, I wanted to be a footballer.
Did you?
Yeah. Right. And I was always told that I'll be a footballer. I'm a footballer. Simple as that.
Yeah.
I used to do things with the ball. I used to score goals that people thought it was an accident, and it wasn't an accident. I was clever.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and I've got a lad now who's exactly. I come from a family of footballers, so the military was never entered the theatre of thought.
So what prevented you from going down the footballer route then, do you think?
I was offered trials for Everton. I got an invite, or my dad got an invite from Everton. Can't remember the guy's name. Howard Brown.
Right.
Howard Brown, I think. Anyway, he contacted my dad and said, "We've had reports about your son. We'd like to invite you along to play against West Bromwich Albion in a trial game." Blah blah blah. And when my dad said, "Everton are knocking," okay, I didn't feel the way my dad sounded. The confidence my dad expressed didn't reflect the way I feel.
Right. Okay.
I knew I was good enough. I knew I was talented enough, and I knew I could be a professional footballer. But I hated the thought of people watching me.
Right. Okay. So then you then decided to join the military. At what age were you then?
18. I joined up at 18.
Right. Okay.
I went for the trial with Everton and West Brom, and when I saw all the other kids with new tracksuits and arriving in new cars, and I was wearing my hand-me-downs, my brother's, but I had to wear 2 pairs of socks because the boots I hadn't grown into the boots yet.
Right. Okay.
I just felt this immense sense of second-class citizenship.
Right.
So I turned it. I said, "I'm not interested. If I can't play for United, I don't want to play for anybody."
Right. Okay.
I didn't have the emotional capacity to say, just I need some counsel here. I need guidance. I can't do this on my own.
Yeah. So once you had that realization of that was your escape route, I suppose. When you joined the army at 18, who did you join? Which branch?
Royal Court. I didn't go to join the army. I went to join the parachute regiment. My dad's ex-para.
Yeah.
There's never a week went by where he didn't speak about the regiment, and he wore his badges a bit like yourself, Joe, with the military badges on his lapel.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there were other regiments apart from the parachute regiment. I thought the parachute regiment was the British Army.
Yeah.
So when I went to the selection centre at Sutton Coldfield and I see people driving tanks and doing air dispatch and engineers, I thought, wow, man, it's like a shopping mall. This is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I saw this. Let me just rewind a little bit. I went to the selection centre at the age of 18. At the age of 17, my mum died.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and I was holding her hand at the time.
Right.
Holding her hand when she died. I heard her last breath leave her. Okay.
Right. That must have been some incident for you, some memory.
I didn't feel a thing. I couldn't feel anything. I wanted to. My sister burst into tears. My brother was in tears. My dad was the ex-para looking over his chicks. And I didn't feel the way they looked. I just didn't know how to feel.
Right.
Okay. So it wasn't long after that, as watching the news and watching how terrorists were causing havoc in various parts of the United Kingdom, and thought, I'm going in.
Right.
But I don't want to go in to be a soldier. I'm going to go kill.
Right.
I didn't want to join. I wanted to kill.
Right. Okay.
I wanted to hurt somebody legitimately.
Right. Okay.
My motives were absolutely skew with. I saw these I can't remember what it was, but it was towards the end of 1970, mid to late 76. And I saw an atrocity on the TV, and it was the vision of that atrocity and seeing the troops on the television. That was I thought, I'm going in the army. I'm getting into this.
So you watched the atrocity on TV?
Yeah, we had a TV.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that was quite a thing in
You know what I
76.
mean?
That's to have a
Yeah.
TV. And where was the atrocity?
Northern Ireland.
Yeah. So right. So then you hadn't joined yet. You wanted to make your mark, so to speak.
Wanted to express myself, but every time what I was experiencing, the only way I could express myself was by leaving somebody in my wake.
Yeah. Okay. So how much anger or frustration now have you got pent up inside yourself as you join in the military?
At that point, it was my existence. It's who I was. I wanted
Right.
to hurt. I didn't mind getting hurt.
Right.
And when I channeled it into my basic training, I actually did all right with it.
Right. Okay.
Now, with hindsight, all they did was train an idiot, a dangerous idiot as well. And I could go from silent to violent in less than a second.
Okay.
And I'm convinced now with hindsight. So after mum died, after witnessing mum die and knowing that she's gone, okay, that trauma, I went into the army to service that trauma, which then caused a domino effect of behaviors, attitudes, and events that just create. I came out 10 times more traumatized than I went in, but the military didn't cause the trauma.
Right.
I went in because I was traumatized, and I
Right.
was angry and I was frustrated.
So, and what branch of the army did you serve with?
I served with the Royal Corps Transport,
Right. RCT. Yeah.
RCT, and then in Belfast, I was with the bomb disposal team.
All
So
right. Okay. Yeah. Was that RLC or RE's engineer?
RAOC.
RLC. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, RLC, which is now RLC Royal Corps.
Blanket stackers.
Yeah. Sorry.
Blanket stackers.
Yeah. Okay. So that would have been a very. And what year was that?
78, 79. I joined in 1977.
Yeah.
I served in Germany for about 18 months. Then went to Belfast for 6 months. And then after Belfast, went back to Germany and I kicked off every weekend. Somebody got whacked every weekend.
Right. Okay. So it's fair to say that you probably, I would imagine, had a few visits to Polky and
Yeah.
Polky drill.
Yeah.
And in case you're listening, you don't know what Polky is. It's jail.
It's the pokey.
It's the Polky in the corner, drill shot above your head. Off you go, bud. Keep it up. Yeah. So
I did 2 military sentences.
did you? Where was that? Was that in Colchester?
No, I didn't do Colchester. I
Right,
did
okay.
just in the guard room. I did 28 days in Germany and then 28 days when I transferred over to England. On one of my behavioural explosions at the weekend in the town, I got 28 days for bringing the army into disrepute for that as well. Section 22A of the Army Act 1955. I have no requests, no complaints.
Yeah, 252, a charge. So you had an interesting and a little bit crowded charge sheet.
Yep.
Which how did you get on with your red book when you got out? What was that at?
I binned it. It was all right. It spoke about my conscientiousness, and I could take the lead. I could make decisions.
Yeah.
They could have said a heck of a lot worse. I was really pleased with it. But I didn't really care what anybody else thought. So I never thought of using that as a part of a CV.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I've still got my red book, and in case you're wondering what a red book is, it's like a testimonial from your commander at the time.
Character reference, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. And if you get anything less than excellent or good, then you've been a bit of for anyone who knows, you've been a bit of an interesting character.
Oh, I was an interesting character, but my sergeant major took me to one side. Squadron SSM Ron Walters took me to one side,
Yeah.
and he took his berry off, threw it on the table, and he said to me, "Sit down, Colin." And I knew this is man to man now.
Yeah.
And he said, "You're getting out, aren't you?" I had about a month left at that time. I said, "Yeah, I'm 26th of June." He said, "Don't do it, kid." He said, "I'm telling you, don't do it." He said, "Because when I talk to you, I'm talking to myself." He
Right.
said, there's no difference between who you are at your age and who I was at your age. And I knew, wow, I've never seen this side of him.
Yeah.
He said, "This is what I'm going to do for you." Pulled out the forms, all filled out. All I had to do was sign to go from being a 3-year man to a 9-year man. He said, "I'll send you anywhere in the world for 6 months. And when you come back, I will launch you onto the ladder of promotion. You will get your first stripe within 6 months of coming back. And one stripe always leads to the next, etc., etc."
Yeah.
And I said, "Let me go and think about it." He said, "No, sign it or don't sign it." I said, "I can't decide." He said, "Right, on your bike, get out." And I knew he was right. I knew he was right. And he was. He was.
And what did you do? You got out?
Got out, yeah. Got out. I got out on the 22nd, on the 26th of June, 1980. And then when the Falklands kicked off in 83, as soon as it kicked off, I went back to the Army Careers Information Office to re-sign. And they got all the forms out. We started filling all these forms. And he said to me, "Have you got a criminal record?" I thought, oh, there we go. So I said, "Yeah, I've been nicked for this and this in the last 2 years." He said, "Forget it." Ripped the forms up in front of me and threw them in the bin.
Have you ever wondered what is going to happen to all your knowledge, wisdom, and skills when you die? Yeah, me too. That is exactly the reason why I created joeteam.com, so I can leave a legacy for my children and for other successful people who are just like you. For less than 40 pence per day, you get access to valuable business and life resources gained from my over 37 years in business and 15 years in the military. These world-class resources are designed to help you achieve the goals, dreams, and aspirations you deserve. So visit joeteams.com now to find out more. That's joeteams.com, joeteams.com to find out more. Right. Okay. So now you're in a position where, because what I hear you saying, Colin, and by the way, thank you so much for sharing this. And I know we could definitely pull up a sandbag, swing the lantern,
Oh, for sure,
and we could just talk for days. So and it's interesting on the drivers that make people join the military. What I've heard from you so far is that. Oh, and by the way, because we've had a chat before. I just want you to go back to the point, and I don't want you to spend too long there in your memory, but there was a point where after your mother passed away, sadly, that you decided to go straight back to work. This was before you joined the army, wasn't it? What happened? Just tell me what happened.
I just had to stay busy. I was serving an apprenticeship as an automatic gearbox mechanic.
Yeah.
And in the home, it was all emotions.
Yeah.
My dad came apart at the scenes. My sister was coming up. Aunties were coming around. Everybody was crying. I said to my dad, "Listen, I'm going to work, man. I can't cope with this."
Yeah.
So I just went to work. As soon as I got into the office, as soon as I got to the workshop, to the garage where I was working, I told my bosses, 2 brothers that I was working for, what's happened. They tried to send me home.
Yeah.
I said, no, I said, I'm better off here. I'm better off doing something. So they gave me like a list of jobs to do for the next 4 or 5 days and just let me get on with it. They just let me get on with it. It was when I went to college when that lecturer said, I know how that feels. I wanted to smash his head in.
Yeah, because isn't it right? And tell me, by the way, because I don't want you smashing my head in. Tell me, by the way, if I say anything along the lines that he did, because obviously I don't mean to. But him saying, "I know how you feel," or "I understand how you feel," what was going through your mind at that time? Like, how do you know what?
I felt patronised.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
felt patronised.
yeah. Because I know we're going to come on to mental health and appropriate mental health in the future. I always struggle when someone says, "I know how you feel," or "I understand," and I think, well, how can you? Because something similar may have happened to you. The circumstances are highly unlikely to be exact, and the way you are compared to me are highly unlikely to be the same.
Yeah, 100%.
Good. So thank you for that, because I thought that was important, because
Yeah.
well, it's very important, because it's what makes us who we are, isn't it?
I just think it's important to highlight that I actually went into the army because I was traumatized.
Yeah. Yeah.
A large part of the reason for me joining up was because I was traumatized. Because when I got out and in and out of jail, when I got out, I wanted to blame the trauma of the military. But in all honesty, no, I went looking for the trouble I got into and found it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. So now you've been in the military for just over 3 years. You had a good chat with your SAP major, which we're going to come on to mentors and coaches later.
Yeah.
So you might want to just
Yeah.
put that as a warmer in the bank. You're out now. When Falklands kicked off, 82, 83, and it was going, then you went back to sign up, and in the intervening period between getting out in 80 and wanting to get back in 82, 83, you'd had a criminal record. So
I got nicked for
what happened? Like, because you've got all this pent-up aggression, probably the army didn't cause the trauma. It certainly
it didn't help.
didn't help with coaching you on how to adapt to it.
No.
So now you're out on the street. What are you doing?
Oh, heroin.
Right. And where are you? Are you back in Stockport now, Manchester?
I went to Stockport. I went back to Stockport originally.
Yeah.
I got out in 1980. By 1982, I was just turning on people, knocking people out at the weekends, just for absolutely no reason. Just silent to violent.
Yeah.
And people would say to me, "Colin, why'd you do this?" And without verbalizing it, inside in my head, all I could say would be, "I don't know."
Yeah.
Just don't know.
So you couldn't join the army, but and maybe you wanted to join the army so you could vent your anger in the Falklands, or maybe you just needed to be back in. What made you want to join?
It was I wanted to repeat the same mistake and hope something different might happen.
Right. Okay. Which, of course, Einstein has said.
Yeah. That's what insanity looks like.
Definition of insanity. Yeah. And I'm glad you know that quote as well.
Yeah.
So right, so you've been refused back entry into the army. You left the career centre. You're out on the street. What happened?
I went to the police station.
Right.
And I called an interview with. I was on bail for attempting to obtain what they called attempting to obtain drugs by deception.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Opiates.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
With a bent prescription, with a forged prescription.
All right. Okay.
That's why I couldn't get back in, because of that one. I had a breach of the peace charge as well, but I was told that's not worried about that. But the one with drugs on it, but I hadn't been charged yet, so I went to the police station, called a meeting with the arresting copper and his supervisor, and said, "Listen, I want to get back in. I can't get back in with that charge hanging over my head." And they said, "Well, it's formalized now. We have to go to court." I said, "Bin it, just bin it."
Mm.
You can throw it away. I know you can bin it. And the sergeant or the copper who was charging me said, Colin, leave it with me. Leave it with me. We'll have to go to court, but leave it with me. Be all right. It's going to be all right. Leave it with me. So I thought, I went back to the Army Careers Information Office, told him what had happened, and he said, all right, come back when it's done and dusted, and then we'll chat. So when I went to court about 2 weeks later, the same copper that's made these, I'm going to look after this, it's going to be all right, get back into uniform. He stood in the dock, and he didn't just pursue the charge. He made it sound like, I thought, is he talking about, that didn't happen. He said I was aggressive to the guy in the pharmacist and all kinds of stuff. Like he made it sound like I was the crazed drug addict who was in desperate need of these drugs. I wasn't.
Yeah.
I knew what I was doing and I knew it was wrong. I get that. I'm all right with that. And I pleaded guilty to it. I said to the magistrate, the magistrate, I said, I'm guilty of charge, but I'm not guilty of any of that nonsense that he's coming out with now. But at that time, I looked at him and I tattooed his name on my mind. I thought, I'm having him, mate. He's getting it.
Right.
So now I'm resentful and internally full of rage and at war with the police. And I went to war with the police.
Right.
I did 6.5 years in 27 different jails.
6.5 years in 27 different jails. So I suppose that's like a bit of a different holiday period in your life, isn't it? Instead of going to exotic places and meeting interesting people,
I went to Strange Ways.
Right.
Yeah.
And Strange Ways. I've not done time in Strange Ways, thankfully.
Not yet, Joe.
Well, thank you for that possibility statement there. No, I have no intention of doing any time in Strange Ways. So Strange Ways is an unfortunate name, really, when you think about it. What was your time in Strange Ways like? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about other people? And how did you break through this downward spiral that you were on?
I was only on the downward spiral when I got out. The spiral stopped when I was inside.
Okay, that's interesting.
I was in the gym 4 or 5 times a week. I'm in good company on my own.
Right.
Strange Ways compared to like 2 years in Strange Ways. I'd rather do 2 years in Strange Ways than 28 days in Colchester.
Would you? Right. I'm going to ask you this question. I've got to ask you the question. I know the answer anyway, but you'd rather do a short 2 years in Strange Ways than 2 weeks in Colchester.
Well, maybe not 2 weeks, but I'd rather do Strange Ways than Colchester.
And just for just out of interest, and I know the answer anyway. Just out of interest, tell you, the listener, Colin, share your reason behind that, please.
In the civilian prison, it's easier to get mind and mood altering substances like cannabis, maybe LSD, homemade alcohol. You can escape the intensity of the prison on a night-to-night basis if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
In the military, it's reality in your face 24/7. And I really didn't like reality. I was fit enough to take the beasting. I mean, but it was too much truth, too hard and too fast on a day-to-day basis.
Right. And what, so you're in Strange Ways now. You've done 27 tours, certainly not holiday tours.
But no, I did 6 prison sentences.
Right.
Okay. And during I did 6.5 years in and out of the jail. And in that period, that's where I got shipped all over the country, because even in the jail, I was running for drug dealers and hustling and always up to something. The jail really didn't bother me. It didn't deter me at all. Jail for me, the heroin addiction never went away. I didn't use heroin in prison, but the heroin addiction never went away. And every time I got out and relapsed, it just got worse, because every time I got out and relapsed, I remembered where I'm from. I'm from good people there.
Yeah.
If I'd have come from an abusive background, it would have been easier for me to be a heroin addict.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I come from quality stock.
Yeah.
I come from
Because your dad was in the palace, wasn't he?
Of course he was.
Yeah.
And he ran a tight ship. If he said jump, we just said how high on the way up.
Yeah.
He never raised a hand to us. He only had to raise his voice.
So what caused you to be such a little turnaway then, developing into such a big turnaway?
I just didn't feel when I consumed the substances, I felt connected, significant, and secure, because it was really, really familiar. It's like an injection of euphoria. And these substances create a perception that all of my needs are now met, emotional, spiritual, and psychological.
Right. And it's great that you, because I've got to say that you probably could have done with a clip round the ear, just the same as I received a clip round the ear a few times. You maybe didn't get it.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you're listening, you might think, "Well, clip round the ear, that's physical abuse." I don't mean that. It can be just a term of endearment, actually, because you know what I'm coming from.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you've struggled now, and you've not been best pals with the police or the coppers. You've taken a personal vendetta out against the coppers because you despise them with a vengeance. You feel, maybe, you tell me, I'm just this is the message I'm getting. You feel as though the copper has done you in such a way you cannot join the military and go to the Falklands to vent your anger. So then you just become just the biggest nuisance that you can make yourself on Civvy Street, dealing in drugs, and then in the prison running drugs and doing everything else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
to the point, Joe, to the point of when I was up before the Crown Court in Manchester. The last time I stood before the Crown Court in Manchester in the back end of the 80s. Yeah, back end of the 80s.
Yeah.
I'd been remanded in custody, and Boy George had hit the headlines as a heroin addict. He had a heroin addiction.
Oh, yeah, I remember, yeah.
And he was on the front page, Boy George, heroin addiction. And there was a picture of him being escorted into a private clinic. Okay. So when I go up, that ticked me off no end day.
Right.
That really got to me. That really got under my skin. That. So when I go to the court and I'm standing in the dock, I know I'm going to jail. Been remanded in custody anyway. They're not giving me bail.
Yeah.
I go up for sentencing, and I said to the judge, everybody's talking and shuffling paperwork around, and my probation officer's saying something and all this kind of nonsense. Yeah. And I just stared at the judge. Her name was either Janet or Joyce Bracewell, the Right Honourable Janet Bracewell, whatever they call themselves.
Okay.
She had half moon glasses on, and she was talking to all the dignitaries underneath the dock. And I just stared at her, just kept staring at her. And for a split second, she looked up and she looked me in the eye. We went eye to eye for a split second. I caught her eye and I said to her, "You're going to send me down the stairs again, Mom? It doesn't work. Your jail doesn't work. Your jail is bail for me.
Yeah.
You keep punishing me, but it doesn't hurt. I can do the jail. I'm doing 400 press-ups a night."
Yeah.
So she said to me, "So what do you suggest, Mr. Garnett?" I said, "I don't know what to suggest, but punishing me doesn't work. I need help."
Yeah.
I don't even know what kind of help to ask for, but I'm not stupid. I've come from good stock.
Yeah.
And you've been talking about, and they let me just download it. They just this was my mitigation.
Yeah.
I said, everybody's talking about this, that, I've done this and I've done that, and I plead guilty, but nobody's mentioned my military service. Nobody said anything about the fact that I signed up voluntarily. I wasn't the best soldier in the world, but I wasn't by any means the worst. I was offered promotions and all that kind of stuff. I said, it's just not adding up. None of this is adding up. It doesn't make sense.
Mm.
So I said, Boy George gets sent to a clinic.
Yeah.
I get sent down the stairs.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Because he's got money and I haven't. So they adjourned. Okay, sent me back down the stairs for lunch. Brought me back up at about 2:00 in the afternoon. And an hour later, I was being ushered from a car, my probation officer's car, into this private sector clinic. Like I had never seen anything like it in my life. The judge said to me, "Are you willing to go for treatment?" I said, "I'm willing to do whatever it is you tell me to do, as long as it's helpful. I don't mind. I'm not scared of taking on a challenge." She said, "Right, well, we've contacted the clinical director, Mr. PJ McCulloch from this clinic, and they sent me there. They sent me for a 28-day program. I was there 17 weeks.
Wow. And I mean, we cannot really underestimate the power of that. I mean, you certainly did a good interview though, didn't you?
Yeah.
That was a life-changing interview with the judge. And it was great. It was great for her to give you time as well to do that.
Yeah, she gave me 6 months. She said, "I'm going to let you go to this clinic today. You come back in 6 months and I'll sentence you in accordance to your progress."
That's good. So you mentioned Boy George and you were a bit cheesed off, to put it lightly. Did you feel then that there was a sort of them and us?
There is a them and us.
Right.
That's a reality, man. That's in fact, I've worked in clinics ever since. In recent years, I've worked in clinics in central London.
Mm.
I've worked in the world's top clinics as an equal with clinical psychologists and psychiatrists. And I'll tell you something, there is a them and us.
Yeah. So now you've been to this, and we're going to come on to that a bit later because what I'm loving our chat, because actually when I glance at the questions that I have for you, you're answering them anyway. So it would just be going through the process of a tick box exercise, and I promise you that I won't do a tick box exercise because
I'm all right. Joe, this is your platform, mate. I'll follow your lead.
Yeah, oh yeah, I know. I recognise that. The fact is that we're covering the stuff because you've told me about your military career. You told me about what happened before your military career. You've told me what prompted you to join the military. You've told me about challenges you faced. And now what we're going to move on to, because right before I leave that part where you've had the judge who looked at you through her half-rimmed spectacles, yeah, and gave you a bit of empathy.
Yeah.
Still probably was interested in how you were such a bad lad, but saw that in the way you'd presented yourself, you just wanted help. And
I'd been in custody for 3 months, so I was back up to like 80 kilo. I had a big chest. I was well fed. I was well coloured.
Yeah.
When I went in, I was like about 63 kilos. I looked like I'd been dead a couple of weeks of just refusing to lie down. So she saw an ex-squaddy.
Yeah. And so you've been on this rehabilitation program that should have taken 28 days, and it took you, what was it, 17 weeks. So you come back out, and then you're back in front of her, are you? Oh, what?
I was in the clinic for 17 weeks, and that means I'd seen countless graduation ceremonies of all the other clients who were only there for 28 days.
Right, okay.
So I knew how to behave in the graduation ceremony.
Right.
And then when it came time for my graduation ceremony, we sit in a great big circle and each of my peers give feedback to me. And then the counsellors give feedback to me. And then they say to the graduates, so what are you going to do next? And I'd heard, I don't know how many people say, I'm going to go home and I'm going to look after my kids and I'm going to be a better husband and a better mother. And then they would rip into them. No, you need extended care. You can't go straight home. It's too much too soon. And I knew that.
Yeah.
So I go through I get the feedback I get was colossal. It was colossal. They offered the clinic offered me a position there to go and work there as a camp. When the CEO, this guy, Mr. McCulloch, PJ McCulloch, he was the CEO, and everybody was intimidated by PJ McCulloch because whenever he spoke, he was really right, really quickly every time.
Right.
And I used to watch him, and he never once challenged me. And I used to think, I can do what he does.
Yeah.
I can do it. So anyway, I get to my graduation ceremony, and everybody's giving me this feedback. And then my counselor, Kiwi guy, said to me, Colin, so what do you think you should do next? And I knew what I was doing next. I was going home. As soon as that door's open, I'm going home.
Yeah.
I said, I think I need to go for extended care. I think to go home now, it would be too much too quickly. And I got this raging round of applause, and I thought, yeah, go on, you suckers. Right. And on the way home,
you were playing the game then?
I played the game, man, but I played it to the point where I had the entire community believing me. They really believed me. But I'd already arranged in my head that as soon as I'm out of the clinic, I'm going home, but I'm going to go and visit my favorite little drug dealer on the way home just to get one hit, just like one for the road.
Yeah. So just on this, because knowing now what you know, if you'd have known it then, how much of on a mark of 0 to 10, 0 being not a very clever thing to do, and 10 being the most positive thing you could do, how clever do you think that strategy was, wanting to play the game and then get out and see a drug dealer?
It was more scary than clever, Joe, because I didn't even realize it myself.
Right.
And I didn't realize how subtle and cunning I was being. I blended in. I was a chameleon. I went in amongst the guy I shared a room with was a solicitor. This is a high class private sector clinic. Yeah. And within 4 weeks, you would not have picked me out as a council estate kid. You wouldn't. Yeah. And that's what scared me more than anything. I believed my own rubbish. I really believed that I was the guy in my stories. I wasn't. I was a misfit, insecure, emotionally constipated bully.
Right. Okay. That's a fairly detailed description of how you saw yourself at that time.
So it was pretty accurate.
Yeah. So just give me that again, how you describe you emotionally
constipated.
Yeah.
Emotionally constipated, unpredictable, manipulative bully. There's a million words, adjectives I've put in.
Yeah. So even you don't have a pretty good feeling about how you were then. So right, so you've managed to pull the wool over the eyes of all these counsellors and all this great big panel of people who are just about to let you out into society. What happens next? Do you have to go back in front of that bespectacled judge, or do you just unleashed on the community?
Oh, I was just unleashed on the community. I was released from treatment 2 weeks before I was due back before the judge. That 2-week window was for me to interact with my probation services and get reports from the probation services.
Yeah.
And then I was to go back to the court in the same car that took me to the clinic with the same probation officer, basically.
Right, okay. And how did that go?
It just didn't. I went straight to the drug dealer's house and I went right back to where I'd come from. I was committing crimes to get money for drugs the day I walked out of the clinic.
Right. Okay. So what happened? So you're back in the world of crime now.
Yeah.
And you've probably been able to exercise and push weights and
Yeah.
everything. So you're probably a pretty mean machine now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're back on heroin, is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
So you're selling the stuff, dealing the stuff on it.
No,
You
I didn't deal.
all right? Okay,
Deal. I was just a user. I was a street urchin user.
right. Okay, yeah. Forgive me. Right.
That's
So
all right. All right.
you
I used
street
to,
urchin user. So what are you getting up to now? Where are you getting the money from? Because heroin's not cheap, is it?
um, I was just stealing everything I touched turned to stolen.
Right. So now 2 weeks have gone. You're a
Yeah.
bad lad again. You're
Yeah.
back in front of the judge. What happened?
Well, I took a piece. I had a piece of weed down my sock because I knew I was going down the stairs. And as I stood in the dock, all the dignitaries are looking for the probation officer. I didn't even report to the probation officer himself. She didn't even know I was out
Right.
of the clinic. So the judge looked at me and said, "Mr. Garnett, we're having problems finding your probation reports." I said, "You're not going to find them, Mom. I've relapsed."
Right.
And that was it. That's all I said. I've relapsed. She said, "Well, you're leaving me no option but to send you to prison for 30 months." I said, "Thank you, Mom." Went down the stairs, gave the guy my shoelaces back, and just carried on where I left off.
So where was the point of salvation? Now you're in Nick again for 30 months. You're back on the downward track, if you don't mind me saying.
Oh, nice,
Yeah,
fine.
you look like you're going to crash and burn seriously this time. Well, you've already crashed and burned. Let's be honest.
I had a way to go yet. I still had another. I wasn't rock bottom yet.
Right. Okay. So you got engine failure at this point then,
I've
and
got engine failure.
you're
Yeah.
not quite crashed and burned because I've got an idea of what happens next. So you didn't Nick, right? Is that Strange Ways again?
No, this was just after the Strange Ways riot. So anybody getting arrested in the Manchester area was getting locked up in police stations all over England.
Okay.
They sent me to Nottingham. I was in Nottingham police station for a while.
Right. Okay. So what happened next then?
There was a suicide attempt, calculated suicide attempt, with no anxiety about it. There was a guy on the wing. There was 12 of us on this wing in Nottingham police station, and one guy in there really irritated me. He was just something about him I really didn't like.
Right.
So I'd made my mind up that tonight I'm clocking out tonight. I'm getting out tonight. I don't mean breaking out. I mean, I'm going to take my own life tonight. I knew I was going to do it, and I thought I'm going to beat him up before I go. So I watched this guy go into the bathroom on the wing at the end of the wing, and I followed him into the bathroom and battered him. And then just went to my cell, closed the door, and prepared my noose for the night.
Okay. So what was going? I mean, that's pretty. Well, it's the end, isn't it? It's terminal. I mean, what was going through your mind? By the way, were you being influenced by drugs at this point, or were
No, I
you?
was in custody. I didn't use. I used to smoke a bit of weed most nights, but that's all.
Right. Okay. So that's a pretty bad place to be, isn't it?
Listen, mate, it's gonna get worse from here.
I know it is. Yeah, I know. So what stopped you then? So yeah, what stopped you? And
Right,
what was going through your mind after you beat the hell out of this guy? Right. What did you do? Just walk casually back to your cell and be
No,
just going through it methodically?
I floated back to my cell because I had expressed myself.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay.
Expressed myself. But anyway, when it all went quiet, I started to do what I was going to do, and I ripped a length of sheet off my bedding, about a 2-inch strip.
Right.
Put one end in my mouth. Okay. Lay on my pillow, put one end of the sheet in my mouth, and then, having kind of in my own way said my goodbyes or whatever it was, I wrapped it around my throat ridiculously tight, and then just lay down and pull the sheet over my head. Because I know as long as I'm if they see me with a around my neck, they're going to come in and cut it off and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So I just wanted out. Okay. So I do that, and then I can't breathe. I was unable to breathe. I started to hear a pulsating sound in my head, in my mouth. I felt like it was as if I could taste my fillings. I had a coppery taste in my mouth, maybe like I drank blood or something like that.
Right.
And right at that moment, as I was thinking, am I bleeding? I had one word. It was just a word, and I don't know if I saw it or heard it or felt it, but I just became absolutely aware of the word God.
Right. Interesting. So the word God.
Just God. I don't know if it was the word, the concept, the idea, the thought, the reality, the falsehood. I don't know, Joe. It was just God. And the thought of God, I lost the willingness to die.
Right.
I was more afraid of dying and facing God than I was of living without him.
Right. Right. So okay. If we have, and I think you'll know where I'm coming from with this. So that was a bit of self-interest, then, was it?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that's a fair description. If I'm honest.
No, in respect and due respect to you, mate, I didn't mean it like that.
I don't think it's disrespectful. I understand what you're saying, but I don't think it's just self-interest.
In the fact that you'd rather live with him than go and face him. That's what I meant.
I'd rather live and die without. I'd rather live in poverty without him.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Than face him.
Yeah.
That's a pretty low self-esteem. I wasn't ready or worthy to stand before God.
Right. I see.
I cannot deny that. I will not deny that.
Okay.
That is the truth.
And what sort of relationship had you had with God or any form of religion before that point?
I had a religious schooling system. I went to a specifically religious school context.
Yeah.
But absolutely no interest at all. No interest at all.
Right. So you've just had this word God come to you, whether it was heard, spoken, seen, whatever.
Yeah.
And then what happened? Because you've got this 2-inch sheet wrapped around tightly in your mouth, one end and the other, and squeezing you every breath out of you, and you're just about to die. What happened?
I got it off. I sat up, pushed myself up, took the sheet off, and then curled up into a ball underneath my bedding and slept all night. I never slept all night. But that night, when I realized I think now, if honest, with hindsight, it was my fear of God that changed me.
Okay. And how much more time have you got to do in Nick? Which may well be. Sorry?
I'd only just started a 30-month sentence. I was right at the beginning of it.
And it was probably going to be extended a little bit because you just kicked 10 bells out of someone as well.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Oh, got away with that. But there was a pretty strong possibility that I was doing a 30-month sentence, but I could have turned into a life sentence.
Yeah. So now, tell me, because this is, thank you so much for sharing this, because we're visiting all sorts of different areas of your life, which is just phenomenal in the way that you're overcoming challenges. Well, getting yourself into it first, but then getting yourself out of it as well. So what happened next? You've got 30 months left, or just under?
Just under. Got about 2 years left.
And you've just been had the realization that God is in your life or not in your life, as the case may be. Where are you now, and what's next?
I lost weight like you can't describe. I was shipped all over the country. I went to about 11 prisons on that sentence. Once the prison system started to receive the Manchester villains out of the police stations, I went to Leeds and then up to Geordieland and then down to Cardiff, just all over the place, just getting shipped all over the place. And then I went to a prison near Preston, Wymott.
Right.
Prison called Wymott, Wymott, where you must obey the tannoy. That's what it stands for. And it was full of heroin addicts. It's as if that's where all the smackheads went. And I got involved in a contract to stab a guy.
Right.
Big lad, big boy, big scouser, built like Frank Bruno. He reminded me of Frank Bruno.
Right.
And I walked into my little clique one night, about 5 or 6 lads that I used to sit with every night. And as I walked in, one of the lads said to me, "Colin, you could do him. You could take him." I said, "Yeah, I'll take him." I didn't even know who they were talking about. So when I said, "Yeah, I'll take him," that was me signing a contract, if you like. "Oh, fantastic. Right. When are you going to do it? What are we going to do? How do we do it? I'll get a knife. I'll do that." And I didn't have the emotional strength to say, "Hang on a minute. No, whoa. It's a figure of speech." So, but I took it on. I thought, all right, I'll do him. I'll do him. And I made it. I stole 2 pieces of metal from different parts of the prison, got myself onto a welding course, and molded the 2, made a knife about that long, and I knew exactly what I was going to do to him, mate. I started making a friend of him, greeting him on the wing, acknowledging him, so I could just create a false sense of security in him. I thought, I've got him.
So that's just about as premeditated as you can get.
Cold calculated, eh?
Yeah.
And I didn't even tell anybody else what I was doing. I'm just going to get this done.
And what possessed you to do that and keep on it once you'd unwittingly agreed?
When I say something, I do it.
Right, okay.
Whether that's right or wrong. And I should have kept my mouth shut in the first place, but I didn't. I made a commitment.
Yeah.
So whether it's a good commitment or a bad commitment, a commitment's a commitment. You say what you mean what you say. I was fortunate in that the day I planned to do it, as I was walking down what they call the M1 in Wymott, a long corridor. As I was walking down there, about 8 lads started running up the corridor towards me. And they said to me, "Just scatter." So I ducked into a wing that I didn't live on. And it turned out that these lads had just battered the same guy that I was going for just before I got there.
Right, okay.
So all I had to do then was just get rid of the knife. And the morning after, I went into the governor's office and I said, "Oh, I want a transfer." He said, "Where do you want to go?" I said, "I want to go down to the Verne in Dorset on Portland."
Yeah.
And he said, "Why do you want to go down there?" I said, "Well, firstly, my dad lives down there. And secondly, I'm a heroin addict. Your prison is absolutely riddled in heroin. And I'm not changing. I'm continuing to get worse."
Yeah.
I was, he said to me, the governor and the governor's assistant said, "This could take 2 weeks to get this formalized." I said, "I don't care how long it takes, but I want to go to the Verne." The next morning, I was on a bus going to the Verne.
Right.
Before I left the governor's office, I said to him, "Sir, your prison's going to go up in smoke and I don't want to be a part of it." On the way down on the bus, we stopped off at Winchester Prison, and on the news, watching TV on the wing in Winchester Jail that night, Wymott's on fire. It kicked off that afternoon. So it was like a prophetic vision, insight. I don't know what it was. It was a bit weird.
So you could probably quite easily get a job as a consultant for prison prisons, couldn't you?
Yeah, I probably could. I probably could.
Spot what's going to kick off and when and why even. Yeah. So right, so you're on the bus, you're going down. How did you get down there? Was it the
prison bus?
All right. Yeah, right, the prison bus. What route did you go?
I don't know, man. All the windows are blacked out.
Ah, yeah, of course. Yeah, you're not sightseeing, are you?
There's no biscuits and coffee.
So you get up there because that's on top of the big peninsula.
That's right,
isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. Because I learned to windsurf down there, not as a prisoner, by the way.
No.
I went when I was in the Royal Engineers, and we used to spend a lot of time at Weymouth and stuff doing portable bridges. So, right, you're in this, Nick, now, and is that another revelation or a devastation for you?
On the 17th of June, I went to the Verne. I can't remember the exact date. I mean, I could Google it and find out when Wymot burst into flames.
Yeah.
About 4 weeks after my arrival. So I got down to the Verne in maybe the middle of May.
Yeah.
And on the 17th of June, I worked out that I had exactly 6 months left to serve.
Right.
And I didn't want to get out. I was scared of getting out. Because I knew I'm going to die this time. And I didn't mind the thought of dying, but I just didn't want the responsibility of my funeral to fall onto my sister's lap.
Yeah.
So all she ever did. The only thing that worried me was how my death would affect them. I knew there would be a sense of relief that it's over now.
Yeah.
It's over now. But I had a vision of this, not a vision, but I had a dread of my funeral, nobody being there because nobody cared. That's the only thing, that's the one thing that really scared me, which would have been understandable.
Yeah.
It would have been understandable.
So now you're scared to get out. You've got only 6 months left to serve. So what are you going to do?
I went back to this God idea.
Right. Okay.
Now,
when you say God idea, was that like going to church, mass, meeting with a priest or a vicar or some clergy person?
You know, if you no, I've got absolutely no time, and then and now, as individual human beings, I've got time for people who call themselves priests and stuff. As long as they can sit with me with boxer shorts and a bob hat.
Yeah.
If they want to come in with robes and smells and bells and dog collars, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. Ain't no man any better than any other man. We've all got a belly button. We've all got the potential for all kinds of crap.
Yeah.
And I don't care whether you call yourself a priest or a prisoner.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any time for it.
And that's for women as well, isn't it? For whether yeah.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Because I know you're inclusive. You were using that as a collective.
Yeah.
So go on then. So you got God back in your life. So what's going to happen now?
My conversation was with God, not with the priest.
Yeah.
Okay. And the only thing I could say that made any sense that I thought might make sense to him if he's listening, and the word he in the Hebrew language is generic. It means male and female.
Yeah.
Okay. And I knew this. God is absolute masculine and absolute feminine. So there's no sexism in calling God he.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't believe there's any sexism in calling God he. But my prayer was, okay, if you are who you say you are, tell me who I am.
Say that again, please.
If you are, this was my prayer.
Yeah.
If you are who you say you are, tell me who I am.
That's a great question. And what?
Hang on, Joe. Hang on.
Oh, yeah.
Hang on. I said, whatever it is that needs to happen in me, I don't even know what to ask for. Whatever this is, and I was physically gesturing my heart and my mind, whatever this is, if you'll change it, I'm going to serve you lock, stock and barrel until the day I die. And I don't care what that means.
So that was your day of commitment then?
Yep. 17th of June, 1993. That was Salvation Day.
That's set in stone, that, isn't it? You know that that's what happened.
That's exactly what happened. And I'll tell you what, Joe, honestly, mate, I've not had one craving for mind and mood altering substances from that day to this. I didn't stop taking heroin. I couldn't stop wanting to take heroin. That was the problem. Yeah. Taking heroin was a consequence of always wanting to take heroin. Taking amphetamine, the actual taking of the amphetamine was the end of a process of wanting the amphetamine more than anything else in the world. It was removed, mate. If I could have stopped, I would have done, for crying out loud. I'm not stupid. If I could have stopped, I would have done. You know what, Joe? You're going to believe this. I know that you know that this is true. If I put my mind to something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you'd mucked about prior to this on wanting to stop, or maybe not wanting to stop. Maybe wanting to stop because someone else wanted you to stop.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And then on this day, you said to God, right, so whatever needs to happen to me, you tell me what it is. I'm paraphrasing, and I'll do it whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you had an acceptance.
At that point, I was offered the opportunity to be baptized.
Right, okay.
And I was offered the opportunity to be baptized in a wheelie bin full of water by the Christians.
And where were the Christians? In the Nick? Or?
In the prison, yeah, in the jail. In the jail.
Right.
And I was offered the opportunity to be baptized in a rubbish bin full of water. And you know what? When you climb into a rubbish bin in a prison where society's dregs throw their rubbish.
Yeah.
When you climb into a rubbish bin like that, that's where you find God. It's got no time. My understanding, the as far as I can glean and understand, the God of Scripture spends more time in the homeless shelters than he does in the palaces.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I climbed into that rubbish bin full of water at 8:49 in the evening on the 17th of June 1993. And at 8:50, I climbed out of that rubbish bin full of water, and a part of me stayed in that, the dirty part stayed in the crap stayed where it belonged. And I've not touched, not even wanted to. And my academic qualifications that I've got, I'm an ordained minister. I've got a bachelor degree in theology. I've got diplomas in psychology. I've got certificates in clinical supervision. It doesn't make sense.
Right. So you've told me about the challenges, right? And now we're going to go on to, and you've just touched on your successes, but I'd like to just stay with that moment of seeing the light, if you like. And what's the secret of your success? And I know after you've just shared that with me, it might seem like a bit of a daft question, like, Joe, are you thick or what? It's not that. It's I want to get inside your head because I want to, because there may well be someone listening, right,
Yeah.
who's had some sort of crap that they've been through and are listening and maybe thought, well, yeah, that's like me. And just a mind shift of what it is, what happened on that day and what's the secret now and how did you get to your success?
So what's the secret of my success? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Embracing my failures on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
I embrace my failings. I respect my failings, and I learn from my failings. And when my failings, if I try to deny my failings, I have a tendency to repeat them.
Yeah. So responsibility, acceptance,
accountability with a mentor, acceptance.
Yeah.
I can't walk on water yet. You see, I've got a ball patch, man. It's not a halo. Ball patch.
Isn't it? I thought it was.
So
listen, right. So thank you for sharing that. I'm interested though, because just because you had this baptism by fire, if you like.
That's exactly what it was. By water and fire.
Yeah, things didn't just change overnight because you're still in nick, aren't you? And you've just got out of a bin full of the proverbial. So what's happening to you now?
I sit and wait. I slept for about 9 hours that night. 17th of June.
And how long do you usually sleep?
On and off, maybe an hour at best.
Right,
and
okay.
Up and about, fidgeting, drinking, smoking, try again.
So this is a phenomenal sleep then, isn't it? 9 hours.
I never slept all night. Never. Even as a child, I didn't sleep all night.
Yeah.
So I wake up on the morning of the 18th of June, 1993. And I know it's change day. It's gone. It's gone. It's just not there. I didn't even smoke.
Right.
So now, for me personally, I realized if I don't put God first, I don't put him anywhere. It's either God first or it's not. He won't share. He won't go shoulder to shoulder with me. He wants me to follow him.
Yeah. So now you've got on that release day, what sort of training or build up to getting out did you have? You got 5 or 6 months left?
Yeah, I had 6 months left. Didn't get any. You don't get any.
Okay.
You don't get any prep. I made contact with a halfway house for people, for men and women in recovery.
Yeah.
From addictions and eating disorders and all that kind of stuff. I made contact with them and asked them if I could join them after my prison sentence.
Yeah.
They wrote back to me saying, "Is this just a ploy to get parole?" I said, "No, I didn't get parole. I've been refused parole. This is because I keep getting out of prison and I keep making the same mistakes and I need to learn how to make healthy mistakes." So they welcomed me in.
And where was that? Where was that based at?
Down in Stroud in Gloucestershire.
Right.
And I knew that I got to Stroud in Gloucestershire and I joined, after about 2 weeks, I joined a church, a small family orientated Christian fellowship rather than a church, non-denominational. And they were saying, my leaders were saying, "Right, Colin, you need a job." I said, "I don't need a job. I just need to relax and I need to rest and I maybe need to do some crying. And I don't need to take on any major responsibilities for at least 2 years. Oh man, you need to work and you need to do this. I said, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. I'll get the job. I've never been afraid of work. I'll get a job when I'm ready, when I'm able, when I know when I get the job, I can keep the job.
Yeah.
Not only because I behave myself, but I can keep the job because I want to keep the job.
Yeah.
Everything's changed now. Everything's changed mentally. The desires, now I realize that I was on the outside looking in, but now I'm in.
Got you.
And if you're gonna accept me, you're gonna have to accept me, warts and all, or forget it.
Yeah. So now we're in the 90s, the early 90s. So let's bring it up to what else happened between that period and before you went to your overseas jaunt, which we'll speak about in a minute. What period, what happened then on your redemption journey?
I was introduced to a guy called Vic Jacobson, the Reverend Vic Jacobson, MBE.
Yeah.
Who listened to me for about 5 minutes and then bought me a ticket to go to Ukraine and help the orphans.
Right.
And to motivate prisoners. Now, the orphans that we worked with were victims of facial distortions due to Chernobyl.
Yeah.
The soil was still saturated with atomic fallout, and there's a whole hospital full of babies being born with air lip and cleft palate, born with big holes in the middle of their faces. I don't know why that was the predominant ailment, but I went to work with these babies who had all these major distortions. They'd been abandoned by their parents. Their parents are sick. It really was in a terrible, terrible state. And that put my trauma into perspective.
Yeah.
You know, the best, without doubt, without one shred of doubt, if you've got post-traumatic stress, go and work with the suffering, not so much military suffering. Go and work with kids who are suffering.
Yeah.
It really puts life into perspective.
So how long did you work there for?
I worked for Vic, was the founder and the president, the international president of an organization called Hope Now. Hope Now. H was for hospitals and health. O was for orphanages. P was for prisons. And E was for evangelism. So I worked with Hope Now for about 10 years, almost 10 years. I was scheduled to take over from Vic. Vic said, right, he's going to start working his way to retirement. I can start putting issues on. So I was going to become the international head of Hope Now Prison Ministries.
Okay. So now then, if my maths is right, we're around about the early noughties, 2003.
I took on the official position at Hope Now in 2003.
Yeah.
No, sorry. 1995.
All right, okay. Yeah.
Okay. I got out in 93. I did nothing for 2 years. Right on the 2-year mark to the month, Vic Jacobson takes me to Ukraine and I start working with Hope Now.
Yeah.
In 1997, he said, right, you need to do something about your education. I didn't have any education at all.
Right, okay.
I had absolutely no education. So Hope Now, the directors and the board of directors and Vic and his wife decided to give me a blank check and sent me to Bible college for 4 years, residential Bible college.
Okay. So now, I mean, that is a massive shift from being probably what could be classed as a bit of a troublemaker to being at Bible college now?
The term social terrorist was used a lot.
Right, okay.
And I mean, when I say that with a smirk, but it's not with any pride. It was a terrible position of desperation that I was at, that I was actually terrorizing my own culture. You know, the heroin dealers and the amphetamine dealers, not many of them didn't feel the wrath of Colin at that time.
So now, 97, 4 years, 2001, that's where I was coming from with the 2003, because I'd just done. Right, so you finished the Bible college, and what are you doing now?
I graduated.
By the way, before we move on to that, sorry.
Yeah.
What sort of breakthrough did the Bible college give you?
What sort of breakthrough?
Yeah. Or what did you learn? What did you find was useful?
Oh, yeah. The modules I chose at Bible college were cross-cultural communication.
Right.
And so that allowed me to have a look at anthropology as well, how different tribes live and what different things mean to different tribes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, got you. Thank you. So that was a big sea change. So now you finished Bible college around about 2001.
Yeah. Let me just say, Joe, in year 3 of Bible college, you have to go on a 5-week practical placement.
Yeah.
And because it's a Bible college, every student goes to a different church or a different Christian community, children's group or something like that. When I got into in year 2, I knew what I wanted to do for my year 3 practical placement. And when it came time to do my practical placement in year 3, I said, I want to go to the addiction treatment clinic in Manchester.
Yeah.
I want to go and work with the counsellors at the addiction treatment clinic in Manchester.
Yeah.
Because the type of counselling and the type of therapy I got when I was in that group setting is far more beneficial than anything the church can offer.
Yeah.
And that's not a slight on the church. They don't understand. I don't want them to understand.
Yeah.
In that clinic where I went, the clinic I went to was in Lytham St. Anne's, but I went to the same program, the Priory type of program in Manchester for 5 weeks, just to sharpen up my addiction awareness. Okay. So they sent me there. I got a top grade for that assignment. And then for my final year practical placement, Vic said to me, right, Colin, we want you in South Africa. You've got to go meet the team in South Africa. So I went to South Africa to work in the prisons there. And I met this girl outside. I spoke in about 17 or 18 different churches. And on my last night of speaking engagements, with about 4 days left before I came back to England, I met Deanna.
Right.
And we got married in this. I met Deanna outside her church after my talk, and we got married 1 year later in the same church. Wow. And her dad's an ex-copper.
Right, okay. So there'd be an interesting conversation there then.
Yeah, we get on honestly, we get on brilliant. We always have, we always did.
And what year was that you got married?
Got married in 2001.
Okay, good. So what a change in your lifestyle. So then you move forward and you're in South Africa now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Right. And how long did you stay in South Africa?
Well, I was working when I went to South Africa. When Vic sent me to South Africa, I was working in the prisons, but I was the wrong colour. I can't go into these guys in the jail and tell them, I understand how you're feeling. Yeah. Because the difference between a Manchester gangster and a Cape Town gangster is chalk and cheese, mate.
Yeah.
Completely different world. So I said to Vic, I can't do this. I can't do this. And at the same time, the church where I was kind of accountable offered me a position in a drop-in for dropouts in a gang district of Cape Town, in a place called Observatory. The Observatory was run by the Hard Livings gang. and there was a drop-in for dropouts there. And I went in, and within, I worked in that rundown terraced house for, I think it was 5 weeks. Then I went back to England. I met Deanna. I went back to England, and then the church offered me a job in there full time when I graduated.
Good.
So I went back. Yeah, went back. Started applying the recovery and treatment principles that I'd picked up in the clinics, and turned it into a private sector, internationally recognized and internationally sought after mental health care facility.
Fabulous. And then the pandemic.
And then the pandemic, in the build up to the pandemic, my wife and I, I ran the drop-in for dropouts, but then it was Deanna and I who started the once I trained men from the homeless shelter into group therapy facilitation. Once I'd nurtured them and they were then running their own groups, I then stepped away, let them run it. I then stepped away. I can supervise from a distance, but I never needed to.
Yeah.
I then stepped away and said to Dee, come on, let's go and start something for the up and outs.
Right. Up and outs being?
Well, there is, you know, the streets are full of down and outs who are addicted to all kinds of chemicals. But the corporate world's full of up and outs who are also addicted to many, many different substances and behaviors and gambling and eating disorders. I wanted to build a bridge between the two.
Yeah. Okay.
Because what I have learned about recovery from addiction, there are no snobs in recovery.
No.
There are none. You can't be both. You can't be a snob in recovery. The snob is another ingredient of the sickness.
Yeah.
So I was able to build a bridge. I've now been able to work with men straight out of the shop doorway and politicians from some of Europe's top countries.
Yeah. So, and we're going to do another session on that and how that develops. What I'd like to do now, because this, our conversation, our chat so far, we've covered many issues, and one of my questions involves transitioning from the military, but you can also transition from addiction as well. And you know, people might say, drug addicts, alcohol addiction, alcoholism, you know, those people they're just nothing. We've already discovered, or you've disclosed, that there's people from all walks of life. So in the first instance, even though you were a bit of a troublemaker when you left the military, now looking back on it, what skills do you think you learned in the military that are really transferable?
The importance of personal hygiene.
Yeah.
Punctuality, loyalty,
Yeah.
focus, and integrity.
Yeah.
Secret integrity.
Yeah.
Doing the right thing for the right reason without telling anybody.
Yeah.
You know that? Oh, you know what I did?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's snobbery where I live.
Yeah.
It's far more important to do nice things without telling anybody.
Yeah. And then not that people like you and me do it for reward. The reward is secondary anyway. Just to know that you've helped someone. That's the big difference. And you know, being in that dark place when maybe you cry yourself to sleep, or you're just wondering what's going on, or you have a God moment, what skills have you discovered and abilities that you've discovered you didn't even know you had going through those challenging periods?
Self-honesty.
Yeah.
Self-honesty and the willingness to find that mentor who doesn't want to be my friend, but has my best interests at heart. If your mentor becomes your friend, you've lost your mentor.
Yeah. And that's a great point, because, you know, we're talking about the values of a coach and a mentor, and I think you've touched on it there. Just the same as you've spent a lot of time going around the world, meeting different people, meeting politicians, meeting business people, meeting down and outs and up and outs.
Yeah.
How important do you think it is to have a good social and business network?
In comparison to the previous answer about loyalty, personal hygiene, integrity, focus, everything else falls into place.
Yeah.
My personal integrity is far more important than my business acumen. I couldn't care less about the business as long as I care about myself.
Yeah.
I can only be the best me. I can only be a good businessman when I'm a good me, when I'm alone. So for me personally, a strong business like LinkedIn is a perfect example.
Yeah.
It's useful. It's brought us together, Joe.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, you're right.
It's brought us together. So in that respect, it's useful. But for somebody coming out of the services, for a man or a woman who's coming out of the services, depending on, especially if it's a long term, if somebody's coming out after 9 years plus,
yeah,
I think it's more important to find a support network who are relational rather than academic.
Yeah.
You know, academia has never solved anything. It hasn't. The academic won't allow it to solve, because then somebody comes up with another theory and another theory and another theory. And you know what? You don't have to go very far to find out that the world's turning into a shithole.
Yeah.
And we're losing the art of relationships and caring and compassion and mentoring and giving somebody a telling off when they need a telling off.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's quite, I think I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
There are a lot of academics out there putting labels, names, tabs, whatever you want to call it, to conditions or positions or situations, circumstances, which if they just had a chat instead, and knew what to say, how to say it, and when to say it, that could solve a lot more, couldn't it?
I ended up as the CEO and clinical director of an internationally sought after private sector in addiction treatment facility. That's the full length title.
Yeah.
I sat at the top of the pile. Okay. I had to sit and listen to people's hogwash. Because I was bound by certain regulations by the body of counsellors for South Africa and all that kind of stuff. So when COVID came along, my CEO title got screwed up and thrown in the bin. I'm a mentor. And if I think you're full of shit, I'm going to tell you, I think you're full of shit.
Yeah.
As a mentor, I owe it to you.
Yeah.
Pardon the graphics.
No. That's an unconditional term that we use.
People are dying.
Yeah.
People are dying. Men and women like you and me, Joe, who served and fought. And they're suffering because they don't know what they're suffering from.
Yeah.
So you get a psychiatrist tapping his tooth with his pen, or the clinical psychologist who's got a practice way of sitting. And I wouldn't be where I am without the help of the clinical psychologists and the psychiatrists. They were brilliant in what they did.
Yeah.
But they turned me into a project. I'm not a project. I'm Fred and Mary's lad.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you what a privilege it is to be Fred and Mary's lad.
Yeah.
You don't need any labels. A psychiatrist said to my dad, I woke up in a hospital, Joe, overdosed on sleeping pills. Okay. I injected some, and they didn't put me to sleep, so I injected some more, and then they all hit me, boom, out like a light. It wasn't a suicide attempt. But I get dragged off to the hospital, and I wake up in the hospital. And as I wake up, I know I'm in hospital. I've done this before. I've OD'd before. So I open my eyes slowly, and I see my dad standing at the foot of the bed talking to the doctor. So I just closed my eyes again. I thought, ooh, I'm not waking up yet. Not while he's here. He's ex-para, mate. I'm not,
I
you know what I mean? I'll fight anybody, but not him.
Yeah.
But the psychiatrist said to him, Mr. Garnett, I don't believe your son's an addict. He's more like a frustrated genius.
Right.
And without wanting to sound boastful or arrogant or anything, truly, I think he was right. Because what I do, when you put me into something, if you inspire me, you'll get the very best out of me, and I'll be as good as anybody else at that project. I've got absolutely no doubt at all about that. If it's boring and insignificant, and if I've got work in the morning, I can't do it.
Right. Well, on that note, then, listen, I want you to say that this is the Columbo question, right?
Okay.
But what's the one top tip you will give to a veteran or someone coming out of the military, and maybe someone who's had some similar experience or relationship with drugs or alcohol, to help them achieve success?
Firstly, find a balance in what you call success. Success, Winston Churchill says, success is going from failure to failure without giving up. Giving up is not an option. It's not even on the table.
Yeah.
We've got men and women around us who can mentor us, who have been through. I would go so far as to say I don't know many people who've been through what I've been through.
Yeah, I think that would be true to say.
I think it might be pretty close to the truth. So there is somebody who understands, without the need of saying, "Oh, I understand how you feel." I won't have to tell you that I understand how you feel. You're going to know. Yeah. So giving up is not an option. Okay, success is about going from failure to failure without giving up. We are here.
Brilliant. Well, Colin, thank you so much for sharing that information, and that was from the heart.
That's it, mate.
I don't think there was much that we didn't touch on there. So, listen, I do look forward to having a chat again, because I think there's a lot more in the tank that we can discuss.
Oh, I'll come over and we can sit over a cup of coffee. You've got a coffee percolator there at your place?
Certainly have, mate. Yeah, definitely.
What more do we need?
And you're not far away either. Right.
We're not. Yeah,
okay.
It'd be nice.
Thank you so much for your time, and you have a brilliant day.
Thank you, Joe. Cheers, mate.
JoeTeams.com is a resource I have created to fulfill my mission to help 1 million veterans and business entrepreneurs like you achieve the goals, dreams, and aspirations they deserve. JoeTeams.com is jam-packed full of valuable resources specifically designed to help you on your journey to success. Visit JoeTeams.com now to find out how you can join and start your journey to success immediately. That's JoeTeams.com, JoeTeams, JoeTeams.com. And until we meet again, have a brilliant day.